Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and we have a really cool opportunity today where we are visiting Sport Systeme Dittrich. Now, Bernd Dittrich is a machinist, designer, and gun enthusiast in Germany who 15 or 20 years ago started a company manufacturing reproductions of primarily German World War II small arms. The rarer and more exotic, the better. And we've slowly started to get some of his work in the United States. So for the most part, these have been guns that were made for the German and European sport shooting market. The first batch that we saw in the US were actually the PTR-44s, which you may or may not recall. It was a copy of the German Sturmgewehr 44 that was actually imported by PTR. It was marked and designated the PTR-44, but they were actually manufactured right here at Sport Systeme Dittrich. Now, US import requirements are kind of substantially different from European requirements for semi-auto sporting rifles. And so it's always been very difficult for these guns to make their way into the US. And it's only within the last couple of years that it's become actually feasible. They set up an American company called the DK Production Group. That's D for Dittrich and K for Christofferson, who is the other partner, the US partner in this project, this company. They're located out of Kentucky. And they are bringing Dittrich guns into the US one model at a time, doing parts manufacture here, receiver manufacture in the US with 922R compliant part manufacture in the US. And it's really exciting. So the first gun that we got from Dittrich in the US, other than those PTR-44s, was the BD38. These designations typically are going to be BD for Bernd Dittrich instead of MP or STG or whatever. But you may have seen this. I did some video on one of these a little while ago when they became available. The quality is fantastic. The similarity, like the accuracy of these as reproduction guns is really outstanding. So let me show you a quick look here. We have a table of essentially all of the different product line. MP38 got the dual magazine MP38, excessively rare in the real world, but he went ahead and made a replica of it. Like I said, rarer the better. MP38 or MP3008, one of several of the German copies of the Sten gun for US sales and largely for European sales. These are converted to semi-auto. Now in Europe, we have open bolt semi-auto. In the US, they're converted to closed bolt semi-auto to meet with ATF requirements. A few oddballs that I think keep designed just because, or built just because they were interesting guns, like the MP35, one of those interesting interwar German submachine guns that was manufactured with a bolt handle to essentially duplicate the handling of a Mauser 98 carbine. But getting to the stuff that is particularly cool, I think the next gun that we're going to get in the US from here is the BD44, copy of the Sturmgewehr 44. I'm really excited about this. This will be really the first time we have a really good clone copy of the STG 44. And this is one of those guns that is primarily, to me, best used in semi-automatic. Submachine guns are a little sad to only have in semi-auto, but for an intermediate caliber rifle like this, full auto is neat, but it's not something you would actually use all that much. These guns are best in semi-auto, and so a semi-auto reproduction of them is not something that I'm at all disappointed about. Note that we have the 44 pattern, and we also have early patterns. We have the 43, or the 43-1 in this case, and like on the MP38 copies, the fine details are something that Dittrich really pays close attention to. MKB 42. Holy crap, that's so cool. Both patterns of FG 42, actually all three patterns of FG 42. So we typically think of the early version, which is this guy, and the late version, which is this guy. There is actually an intermediate transitional version, the E type. And he's even making that, right down to the distinct magazines for each different pattern of the FG. So the level of detail here is really, really cool. The machining quality is amazing. VG-15, the very late war Volkssturm Sort of gas delayed. It's not really gas delayed, but mostly a simple blowback 8x33 Kurtz carbine. Fantastically interesting guns. And then if we want to get really exotic, how about a modernized FG-42? Because, you know, why not? Folding charging handle, shorten the whole thing, modern pistol grip. I don't know that this is a viable commercial product for the US, but who knows? The occasional conversion projects. This is an MP41R. This is actually an original Russian MP, PPSH. But what Germany did during World War II was make a conversion to allow it to use MP40 magazines, and Dittrich's making those conversions. If you know what that is. I'll just leave it at that. Now, let's take a look at some of the rest of the shop here. Show you the machine tools and some of the work processes. Here's a good place to start. This is our, let's see, G pattern, late FG-42. This is the F pattern intermediate. Sorry, I think I said E earlier. This is the intermediate. Like, they're so similar, like identical in function, but these three patterns all had completely distinct dimensions, and Dittrich's actually reproducing those to their original dimensions instead of cutting corners anywhere. There's an interesting, so that's an FG-42 receiver flat, but it's got an 8x33 Kurtz magazine well. Let's see. One example, there are several, about half a dozen major milling machines here in the shop. Tooling on this one right now is set up to do the end caps for buttstocks. So you can see this is a raw stamping, a bit ragged there. That's how they come out of a stamping die. And then they go into a jig in there. You can do some machine work, trim off the back, cut the holes, press that hole in place. Actually, that pressing is already there. You just have to drill the hole. Have receiver stampings to be completed. What else do we have back in here? Nothing specific back here at the moment. A number of small manual tools. A specific, rather complex setup to mill internal geometries, such as you get on like the Gewehr 41M with the bolt rotating as it travels. That's quite fancy and exotic. Mill, lathe, parts in process. Let's see, what else do we have that's a little more identifiable? Magazine assembly. Of course, these are guns that don't have a whole lot of currently available magazines, so you have to make your own. There's Sturmgewehr magazines. You can see this was two stamped halves, reinforcing plate. The spot welding's been done. This will get cleaned up and then finished. Same sort of thing with, I mean, how cool is it to see just an entire 3 crates of STG-44 fire control group halves. The next step here is to set the internals for the various cross pins. And these will get set in place, and then put both of the halves together, weld them in place. The actual stamping machine, the stamping press, is right here. So we can see a number of the things that they've been doing. We've got end caps for a different receiver. We've got, if I can pull one out of here, there we go. We got STG-44 or MP43 receivers. So that's a flat that will be bent into shape. This is halfway through the process. A couple more major machining stations. So you have multi-axis machines. This thing is just huge and gorgeous. This is so stereotypically German. I think this is the cleanest machine shop I've ever been in. Again, another rather enormous machine. So this is a professional machine shop. The guns are a major part of their business. They have 15 employees here working on the reproduction firearms, but it's also a general purpose machine shop that takes in business from other, anyone else who needs to do manufacturing. And let's see. Coming around towards the end, we have gunsmithing assembly area. Well, probably more over here for assembly. And then we have a little shooting station down in the hole. All right, so that's the shop. Before we leave though, I mean, they have a test range. I really want to try something out. We can kind of take our pick here, but because it's the next one that's coming to the US, it seems most appropriate to grab the BD-44 and try it out. Let's go hit the range. All right, it's not really so much a shooting range down here as it is a test firing tunnel. So not very fancy, but it's enough to at least get a feel for the gun. So let's see, I'm gonna set this to Einzelfeuer. Because of course he has reproductions of the 10-round like bench testing magazines as well. It's only Einzelfeuer. This is one of the semi-autos. He does make some full autos, but that's not for the civilian sales market. All right, that is exceptionally loud in this very small enclosed concrete space. These are beautiful guns to shoot. The weight of a Sturmgewehr does a huge job of essentially completely negating the recoil from it. So very excited about these. All right, guys. Well, I'd like to give a really big thanks to Bernd Dittrich and Sport Systeme Dittrich for inviting us in here to see all of their cool stuff and film it all for you. Big thanks to my friend Lars at LBTAC for helping to arrange everything. And it's super exciting that we're going to be getting in time all of these in the US through DK Production Group. So if you're interested in this, you can check them out at DK Production Group. These are all being made in relatively small numbers. They're relatively expensive guns because they're stupidly high quality reproductions, and that's how this sort of thing, unfortunately, kind of has to work. But check them out if you're interested. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.